Once upon a time, in a kingdom ruled by a just and loving king, he often roamed the streets at night in disguise to truly understand the lives of his people. He did this not for power, but for compassion, wanting to ensure that his kingdom flourished with fairness and kindness. One crisp evening, the king decided to leave the comfort of his palace and walk the streets of his kingdom, disguised among the common folk. He wanted to see for himself how they lived, away from the luxuries of his royal life. In a quiet corner of the city, the king came across a group of dervishes sitting together by an old stone wall. Their robes were worn, their faces weathered by time, and they shivered from the cold. One of the dervishes, feeling the weight of the world upon him, began speaking about the injustices he believed to be happening in the kingdom. His voice was filled with frustration and bitterness. "If Allah forgives kings on the day of judgment, I will refuse to come out of my grave," the dervish said, his voice firm. The others nodded in agreement, clearly feeling the same sense of injustice. "How fair is it," another dervish asked, "that these kings enjoy a life of luxury while the poor suffer in the streets? Why should they be granted paradise after living such opulent lives? If our king ever comes near the gates of heaven," the dervish continued, "I will beat him with my shoe." The others looked at him, some with shock, others with a strange sense of satisfaction, imagining such an action against the powerful rulers. The king, hearing every word, remained silent, though his heart felt the sting of the harsh words. He understood the frustration of his people, but he knew the truth of his own intentions. The king, feeling the weight of the dervish's words, chose to leave quietly. He understood the anger in their hearts, but he also knew his own sincerity. He had no desire for confrontation. The next morning, as the royal court gathered, the dervishes were summoned to the palace. The king's servants made preparations, unaware of the surprise awaiting the humble men. The dervishes, still confused and nervous, were brought before the king. They had no idea why they had been summoned, but the fear of their earlier words weighed heavily on them. One of the dervishes, unable to contain his confusion, asked the king in a trembling voice, "Why have we been honored in this way? We spoke words against you, and now we are treated as guests of honor." The king smiled gently, his face calm and wise. He knew that his response would shape the way these men saw him, and he wished to convey understanding rather than anger. "I am not a cruel king who oppresses the weak," the king said. "I seek peace with people like you. I understand your frustration, but know that I am not your enemy. We are all part of the same world." The dervishes were taken aback by the king's humility. Their anger began to melt away, replaced by respect and understanding. They had misunderstood the king, but now they saw his true nature. The king continued, "Shall I hope that now you will not wish to close the gates of heaven for me? I seek only peace and goodwill for all of us." The dervishes, moved by the king's words, nodded in agreement. They realized that their anger had clouded their judgment, and they felt a deep sense of gratitude for the king's kindness. "Let us all remember," the king said, "that the wealth we hold is not ours alone. It belongs to the people, and we are only its stewards." The dervishes left the palace, their hearts lighter and their minds clearer. They had learned an important lesson about kindness, humility, and the true nature of leadership. In this story, we learn the importance of understanding the struggles of others, of showing kindness, and of sharing the blessings we have with those in need. True leadership is not about power, but about compassion.